Hey, welcome to my new video. My name is Vova and I'm an active seller on Amazon. Today I have a very special guest for you. Today I'm accompanied by Lian Zheng Wen, and Lian owns a digital marketing agency which helps small businesses and local businesses generate leads, clients, and eventually get more sales and up their revenue. Today's video topic is going to be how to open a digital marketing agency with no money. So, Lian, man, please introduce yourself to us. I'm really happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me here.
We're in Singapore now, and it's my first time here.
We finally met after a year. Last August, I think, was it?
After a year and a half.
A year and a half, yeah.
So I'm happy to introduce the special friend and special person.
Yeah.
So please, man, introduce yourself to us. Tell us about yourself. Tell us your story, man. I think we're pretty excited. I'm pretty excited, man.
I'm excited too. Right, cool. So my name is Zheng Wen, and I did something which I didn't think I would do. Just a few years back, I was trying a lot of different stuff, and setting up a digital marketing agency with $0 wasn't something I really expected to do, and it was kind of more out of desperation, right? Because a lot of people, especially people who are listening, right, entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs, right, they are looking. A lot of them don't have much capital to start with. They're young like me, and but they have like such huge dreams, and whereas if you're doing things like drop shipping or Amazon or any like physical product thing, you kind of need at least a small amount of money, 1,000, 2,000, to just kickstart your business, and you don't even know if it's going to work. So I did digital marketing agency, just because I have some skills in Facebook, and I really enjoy it, man. And it's
awesome.
And it's out of desperation that I kind of did it.
So you kind of started because you were a bit desperate to do something because you wanted. Obviously, you have tried different things online as well.
Yeah, you would know all about it.
We we met a while ago and we became friends, and so I'm very excited to interview this special man today. And so, digital marketing agency, man. I don't have a digital marketing agency, so could you tell us what is a digital marketing agency? Like, what it is all about? How does it look? What is it? Like, what is a digital marketing agency?
Okay, so super simple in layman terms, right? A digital marketing agency, it's just kind of like you as a service, selling your services to a local business. You start small with a local business or a small business, that can afford your services. It's not much. It's like 1,000, 1.5 thousand, to help them generate more clients, more revenue, because these are the kind of people that you want to help, and you're especially using Facebook ads or Instagram to help them market. So you're not necessarily doing like things like flyers anymore. Those like super outdated. I still have a friend, weirdly enough, that does. I don't think I've told you this before actually. I have a friend who used Facebook. Oh, sorry, not Facebook. Newspaper ads.
Really?
Yeah. And I think for one print on the Straits Times, I think it was like I think a few hundred or 1,000 just for one print. Like, you could spend an amount on ads and get back like 10 times more, an infinite amount of revenue, because he had zero. He had like absolutely no results, So I thought, that's what a digital marketing agency is, right? We help other businesses generate leads, generate clients, on Facebook. That's about it. Yeah.
So you can start a digital marketing agency, if I understand it right, if you have no capital generally, right? You can do it by having some specific skills, which we're going to be speaking about as well.
Yeah.
And then essentially do it with zero money up front. Can you tell us a little bit more about this? Like, how does it work? Like, how do you start a digital marketing agency with no money whatsoever? How?
Okay, cool. So I'm really glad you asked us. Very something that I wanted to share with you guys was that if you want to start something with no money, expect to put a lot of hustle into it. It's something a lot of people don't share. So how I basically started was, I sent emails. I think every single day I sent about 200 emails every single day.
Oh man.
Yeah, and that's just the start. So you have follow-up sequences, and you have to reply if they reply you. So I was like sending out 200 new emails every single day, and I was replying. I was doing the follow-ups, because follow-ups, aren't considered a new email, right? Not a new email chain. So I was spending like 4 hours, 2 to 4 hours, every day, just sending email to people. Hey, are you interested in my services? I have this, I have that, and it's relatively cheap, right? You can do it for free, totally free if you want. If you just log on to, like, say, if you're interested in dentists, right? Which is what I started with, right? So I have a spa client as well and a dentist. So what I did was I scraped all their emails from wherever I could find, Google, LinkedIn, or all these kind of places, and I had, like, I think right now I have like 1,000 email, right? So every single day I would just message them and email them. And some people would get back to you, some people don't. But and chances are is that they won't get back to you,
Of course.
right? But I think that's where you have to put in the hustle to just start, working, and that's essentially how you started with zero capital. And the fun thing about this is you don't even have to worry about paying for the domain, because you can just use your personal email, man.
Personal email.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it gets you low results, but $0, man, it's $0.
So to sum it up, when you want to start a digital marketing agency with no money, you have to put in a lot of time.
Yeah,
Because
a lot of
you're starting with no money, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And you have to put a lot of time, and you don't even need domains. You don't even need a website.
Nope.
Actually, you can send cold emails to people, and therefore, hopefully, some of them will get back to you, and some will not.
Yeah,
I have
it's a
a
numbers
really
game.
interesting question, man. Of course, so you do send them some reply, some do not. But where do you find these emails? Where do you find the people? How would you know that you're sending? Or do you find the businesses on Google? Or how do you do that?
Well, I'm glad you asked, man. Okay, so what I did was super primitive. It's no secret sauce, no special sauce. So if I ask a stranger, could you help me find, let's say, we are like here, right, at the Starbucks, enjoying a good cup of coffee.
Oh yeah.
If I ask you, how would I find Starbucks' email, right?
Ah.
How would you do it? You just log on to your website, and they probably have like an email contact there. I wouldn't know. I haven't logged on, but most businesses do have their email there, their numbers and everything, man. It should be under contact us.
Yeah.
Right. So the secret, if there ever is a secret, is find their website. So what I did was I just searched for all list of dentists in Singapore.
Oh wow.
And I just scraped, all their emails, and I just, I think to get an email was like 5 minutes. So you can imagine for me to get like 1,000 emails. Yeah, you get faster over time, get more efficient, and there are better ways to go about it. But that was how I started. Just sitting there in front of a computer, not even sending emails yet, but collecting a good list, and then slowly sending them out, So it really is, I would say, putting in the effort and using a little bit of creativity, right? I don't think it takes too much creativity to go like Google or dentists in like, Nashville, Ohio. I don't think it takes too much. Yeah.
All right.
Just go away.
So again, to wrap this part up, you can find different emails of different businesses by, for example, if you wanna give digital marketing agency services for dentists in order to help the dentist grow his client list to get eventually more sales, you will go to different websites of different businesses that you want to promote in your area.
Yeah.
Find their emails there. It's not an easy. You gotta work manually, right? But nevertheless, it does work.
It
right?
does work. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Sure.
some people will not answer, as I mentioned earlier. Some people will answer, and eventually you get people. You have those follow-up emails, right?
Yeah. Follow-up emails.
So somebody answers you, for example.
Yeah.
And then you already have a kind of an email that is set up
sequence,
to,
Yeah, and I think the secret really is in the sequence, because my reply rates for the first email, the open rates for the first email are about 50%.
All right.
Which is actually not high, because I know people who do 80-90% open rates.
Wow, that's.
And then within that 80-90%, they have like, I think like a 20% to 40% reply.
I understand. Wow.
Yeah, so they get about 20 or 30 replies every single 100 emails they send out. And obviously I didn't have the money to, or rather I didn't want to spend the money. Or if you don't have the money, you can just write your own sequence. YouTube, how to write email sequences, cold email outreach, and just get at least seven to eight, right, and just send it to them every single day. Yeah.
I understand. So again, it's a lot about manual work, and you gotta hustle to get those emails. But you find them on different websites of those businesses that you want to promote. I have another question for you. So, for example, it sounds interesting, this digital marketing agency idea, but who is this for? Who like, what type of person would be would suit to open this kind of business or this kind of venture? What do you think?
Okay, so I'm really glad you asked. So, just a little bit into my story was that the reason why I started entrepreneurship was because I was, at first it was something to prove, but my family had typically people have like, I have something to prove. I don't want to work 9 to 5 job. I'm different from these people, and I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate, right?
Yeah,
I know he definitely relates, and
Yeah.
I relate as well, right? But that didn't give me, and that made me start businesses. But ultimately, I settled on digital marketing agency and sorry, okay. So I'm so sorry. What's the question again? So mistakes, right?
It's awesome, man. It's I think part of a healthy interview is
Yeah,
to get excited a little bit
Yeah.
because we wanna help others who are watching.
exactly, right?
And yeah, that's just fine. So the question was like,
Yeah.
who is this? Who is this for?
Very
Like,
good,
who
very
will
good.
bet? Who can? So to say,
Right, yeah.
who should or who has the chance or who should try this kind of venture, this kind of business? Yeah,
Right.
kind of thing.
Okay, right. So to bring back to the question, so if you are someone who doesn't have any money, but for whatever reason you have that burning desire in you to start a business, and there are so many options: email, affiliates. You can start a YouTube channel. You could do so many other options: drop shipping, Amazon,
Amazon FBA,
right?
yeah.
Amazon FBA, which is a huge thing for him, by the way. It's a huge thing now, right? But all of these more or less require at least a little bit of capital. It's not a lot, the barrier of entry is a lot lower, but but I think agency is really for people who want to start with little to no money on the online area. For whatever reason, your family is not doing very well, and you want to help out, however you can. You don't want to be confined to the 9 to 5 job. You want to, break out the social
Yeah,
norms.
yeah.
I think, people like us, we can relate to these kind of things, and if you have, this is good for a start, because you have a lot of things to do. Expectations of clients always are hard to handle, right? So eventually, it's a good starting point for people who want to start an agency with no money down at all. So I think that's good. If you have that little bit of entrepreneurial spirit, you can try it out. And I think out of all the online things, just my personal opinion, this is the easiest one to get into. Yeah. Yeah.
So again, the digital marketing agency will be good for those who want to do something, so say entrepreneurial, to start their own kind of venture, kind of business with no money. That's what's interesting. You don't need to money to invest.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Because
Not like the rest.
Mostly, of course, with time you can scale it with ads,
Of course,
and
ads
everything.
and everything.
Yes,
Yeah, but
but
that's a different story.
for example, you cannot start what I'm doing. You cannot start Amazon FBA with zero money. Like, at least I'm not aware of this kind of way. Maybe there is.
Anyone who tells you so, it's
probably
not.
No, I would
not,
say that.
Yeah, probably not. not
Again, it depends on the kind of. But for example, private label, what I do, you need healthy amount, at least 5-10K bucks to start with the product, to get it moving, to go through the failures of the product, which will be definitely will be there. I don't know anyone who does well in Amazon FBA haven't had any kind of mistakes, which is pretty interesting. But which brings me to the next question. So, all right, so we realized that we can do it with no money. We can do it if we want to try something new. If we want to, break from the chains maybe that are holding you, in your job or whatever. But what skills are needed for this? What does one need to have in order to do that? Because obviously you do need to have something.
Yeah, something to offer, right, to your
to
clients.
offer. Yeah.
Okay, so I think, not just in this business, but in every single thing you do that's online marketing, you need to get really good at that one core skill, which is what I think people have been referring to as the one high income skill. So for Dan Lok, right, his one high income skill is closing.
Right.
And he finds like a multitude of ways to monetize that one particular skill, right? So for me, that one skill you really need, it's not even writing emails, it's not the cold outreach, but I think what's important is being able to fulfill what you're trying to sell. And for my agency, we do Facebook ads and Instagram ads. And for those of you who are running ads, you know that they kind of go hand in hand. They're both under Facebook, right? And I did spend a lot of time studying about Facebook, and I kind of had, maybe I was lucky in a little bit of the sense, because I was doing drop shipping. So that's how, if you're wondering, that's how I know it needs money.
Yeah.
Right? And I tried Amazon FBA as well. I didn't exactly reach, achieve what I wanted to do in Amazon FBA because I was kind of lost. I didn't really know that you needed that much amount of capital to start. So it couldn't, there wasn't enough capital to sustain for my mistakes, right? So that's why again
the skills, man. Yeah, the skills that are needed.
Right.
So
So a high income skill. You need that one high income skill. And for me, that'll be Facebook ads. For you, it could be cold emailing itself, right? So imagine if you are working for a dentist and you could, scrape emails of everyone near the area.
Yeah.
Just send out cold emails, things like that, right?
So you can essentially, for example, you have sent emails to different dentist agency, dentist businesses in your area, right? And eventually you have closed one business who decided to work with you, right? And then for this business, what you can do is you can email different clients, find people
For them,
right, for them via email or via, as Lian mentioned, via Facebook ads. And also he mentioned that you're gonna have one skill that you're very good at. As you mentioned, the dude Danilog has a very good skill in closing, right?
Yeah.
But if you have, generally, it's always good to have one skill that you are very good at.
Very competent.
And for example, if this is Facebook ads and you have experience with Facebook ads, obviously that's the skill that you are using for, in order to help businesses generate their leads.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about Facebook ads? Just like generally, what does it mean, Facebook ads? How do you generally help people get more clients via Facebook ads? Just like, just let us know.
Okay. So I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
For one of my clients, which is a spa client, what we do is, so there's two parts to our strategy. Okay, the first part to our strategy is Facebook ads, right? And obviously you need a website to send them to, right? So one thing I'm really good at is, like you mentioned, Facebook ads. So you want to target people around a 15-mile radius.
Right.
Okay, so that really depends on where you stay.
Yeah.
In Singapore, I target only a 1-mile radius, only because I know people in Singapore. I know that because I live here, the lifestyle is super busy, and I know no one is going to travel across Singapore. By the way, Singapore, 15 miles. If I'm not wrong, it is more or less how big Singapore is. 15-mile radius. So it's like a 30-mile radius for like the whole of Singapore, I think. If I'm not wrong, I don't know my miles to KM, but last I checked, okay.
Alright.
Singapore is pretty small, so I know the lifestyle of people here don't want to travel that much because they are busy 9-to-5 jobs. Singaporeans are known for being very hardworking, so they won't travel super far for, let's say, a spa or a facial or a dentist. So I only target a 1-mile radius around the area. But that's the general idea. You don't want to target like the whole world, right? You're not going to run ads to the whole world just because someone from America is going to come to Singapore just for facelifting or things like that. So then what I do is I target interest. So let's say people who are, say, around this Starbucks, 1-mile radius, and people who are interested in coffee, right?
Yes.
Or they're interested in drinks, or they're interested in having a recreational time with their friends, right? Depending on the ad copy, and I send them to a website. It's a simple offer. I collect the email first, and then I go and ask them, hey, so Starbucks is running this promotion. It's a 1-for-1. You want to come down? Essentially, I ask them that, right? But you always have that email to fall back on if you don't manage to sell it on them in the first place, right? So let's say you go there, you key in your email, hey, this is a cool offer, right? And then you go there, and then they ask you, hey, you want a 1-for-1? You're like, maybe not right now, so you close it. But what Starbucks now has is your email.
Yeah.
They now have your email, and they can always reach out to you no matter what, unless you opt out, of course. Then but that's basically it. Yeah, it's two-parter: Facebook and then building a funnel.
So you send people in the area. Again, depends on what kind of business you want to help. It depends on where you live. It depends on, you need to understand the country, the place where you're at. You need to understand the people. Of course, there's a lot to whoever you're targeting. Yes, definitely. And with Facebook ads, definitely you'll be getting better and better, specifically with this skill. Right. And you see, now I kind of lost the phone. But Facebook ads is essentially one of your strongest skills, and you're sending people to a squeeze page where we want to get their email right, for with some specific offer, and then they opt in, they get the offer, and you continue with the email follow-up, right, that you said previously, in order to sell them. For example, with the example with the dentist,
Yeah.
we'll continue sending them offers, promotions, general content, I believe, right?
Yeah, exactly.
In order to eventually
Them
nurture.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. So I think one thing Gary Vaynerchuk says is the jab, right hook. So essentially, it's kind of like that. One thing you have to be, somewhat decent at, I would say, is learning how to give value to people, right? So just like this interview, right? He's brought me to you guys, and he's brought you guys to me. And I hope you're learning tons of stuff from this, right? So
I'm learning, definitely. I'm learning.
that's good, man. I'm super excited to share this with you guys. So one thing that Gary Vaynerchuk is really good at, you'll see his social media, he's always giving value.
Yeah.
And then once in a while, he hits you with like a right hook, like a promotion. Hey, come and buy this from me. And generally, it's a cheap offer, until he starts to build your trust, and that's more on the back end. You won't see it unless you are actually a student. Then he sells you on like high ticket items and things like that. This is generally how it goes. That's generally how it goes.
We nurture our the person that has gotten inside our funnel. So he has gotten through a Facebook ad to our squeeze page with an offer. Hopefully, he took the offer in terms of giving us his email.
Yeah.
And he got in, for example, I'm not sure exactly what you do with the dentist, but for some specific article or ebook, something that gives them value, you continue dropping value through email, and then bam, you give them some sort of promotion, man. Yeah, that's pretty interesting, man. And that's like, for me, I don't have obviously a digital marketing agency, but I did learn from you about it. I do have an option to, it's not exactly a digital marketing agency. What I do is I create different designs and pictures for Amazon sellers, but most of my sales come from word to mouth. Like, I did create different
referrals.
pictures. Yeah, that's it. I didn't run ads for that whatsoever, and I do give a lot of time for each client, and that's what I do. But yeah, it was definitely interesting to learn this kind of thing, man. I mean, to kind of wrap it up, I guess, the ones that are watching hopefully have learned some good stuff, because as I mentioned, I did, and thank you again for sharing, man. Thank you for coming here to this awesome place. Where are we in Singapore, by the way? It's like,
where are we? Okay, we are somewhere like Buona Vista. There's a Starbucks a little bit outside of Buona Vista. It's a little bit off center of Singapore. But I hope you like it, man. It's a nice place. I really hope
it's cool. Yeah, I do like it. And man, I wanna ask you, like, tell something to our viewers that maybe some of your successes and failures, that because you've been hustling online for a while, right? For a few years at least now, right?
Yeah.
Tell us some success, some failure that that you went through, and it enhanced your journey, in order to enhance the journey of our dear viewers, man.
Sure. All right. Okay. Cool. So there's a little bit more backstory about me. Is that I started when I was 16. So I'm 22 now, and I started when I was 16, knowing that I wanted to do or run a business, right? Because it came from me seeing my parents honestly work so hard, and my mom, and I'm like so emotional when I share this story.
Yeah.
Right, and I would wake up every day and see my mom start working at 9. Right, so she works at my house. So she's something like an entrepreneur, but it was a family hand-down business. So it wasn't like something she started. Right?
I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So she would start working at 9, and she would only break for meals, lunch, dinner, breakfast. Maybe not even breakfast. She would work at 9 all the way to 12. And then she would maybe have supper, but throughout, right, from 9 all the way to 3 at night, for a good maybe 4 years, she was working non-stop.
Yeah.
Every single day, except Sundays, right? But and I remember I was asked my mom this question. I asked her, "Hey mom, so like, when you go to sleep?" Because I'm concerned for her, right? Obviously, and I was like, and my dad as well. He works super hard, right? And I see him working late at night. Even when I'm sleeping, I will wake up at 2 o'clock and he'll be there working, right? And it really breaks my heart to know my parents are working so hard.
Yeah.
But and I know that job is stressful, so I started wanting to learn more of business at 16. And I tried and failed for, I would say, a good 4 years.
Yeah, man.
4 to 5 years, man.
That's normal, man.
Right? Yeah. So for you guys, 4 to 5 years is the time to go. If you wanna in this, be in it for a long haul. Don't go for the fast cash. You'll find that your motivation dies after a while. So have the mindset that you are coming in this planning for the long game, right? I think this is the most important thing, is that a lot of people think like, oh, how to start a digital agency media with like no money. But then they kind of have this mindset that it's fast, it's quick money. Which is not true. Not at all, right? I hope you guys take action, right? I really do. But just know that it's not going to be easy, right? So there'll be times when there are times when I doubted myself. I cried at night, thinking like whether I'll make it. What my parents think of me. It's been 5 years, no results, I'm a failure. It's a lot of mental things going on.
Definitely.
Yeah, and
Definitely, man.
and even when you build up the courage to start your first business, then the universe tests you, right? You know it's gonna fail, then it hits you down, and then you go like, what's all that motivation for? I failed my first business. After all that motivation, I tried and I failed. But I think it's important that you pick yourself up. So my very first business was an Instagram service, and I was a little small shareholder. But what happened is that the team kind of fell apart, and it left me with like nothing essentially, right? Because I thought going into it, I thought I would be learning a lot, and I did, right? But I thought there would at least be some monetary returns.
Yeah.
I think after I spent a good almost a year on it, then it just was nothing, man. I didn't get any return from it. I learned a lot, but I didn't get any money return from it. So I considered that something like a failure. Then I tried dropshipping, right? And then I spent like a good, I think 4,000 to 5,000. Then I tried Amazon. I spent another good 4,000. Only to find out, that's actually how we met. We met on Amazon, right? As he was helping with the services, great, by the way, I super highly recommend it still, super helpful, man. And that's, I'm really appreciative of your effort, man. Giving value, right? And so like I was saying, I failed in Amazon, and I tried an agency. So this isn't my first time. I tried an agency. I tried working under my friend, and I was having like such a hard time closing clients. There would be days where I go out and I was meeting 4 clients a day, and I failed closing all of them, right? Because my sales isn't really good, right, at all. And I would be out for like 12 hours a day, closing clients, coming back home with zero money. And because I didn't have any money, I wouldn't eat the whole day. And I was going out closing clients, and you have to be high energy and everything, And it was a really stressful period for me, right? So, if anything, I really hope that that entrepreneurship is not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, man.
But the journey is super worthwhile.
So yeah, man, thank you for sharing your story personally with us and telling us about your successes and failures, because I don't think that anyone that has gotten anywhere with business, with all this entrepreneurship, did not fail somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not possible.
Yeah.
And I think that as I hear you speaking, somewhat failing is good. It's not that fun in the moment, but when you look back,
it's like it's a very fulfilling journey, right?
Yeah, it should have happened, man. It kind of
Totally
connected
agree.
dots,
I totally
kind of thing.
agree. Yeah.
And again, thank you a lot for sharing your story, sharing your
welcome,
knowledge, man. Because again, I have learned a lot from you, Lian, today.
Thank you.
And man, let our listeners know how they can best contact you. Hopefully, they have liked the interview content, so let them know how they can best contact you, man, in order to get to know you more or get some of your services with the digital marketing agency that you offer, man.
Okay, cool. So right now, you can only contact me through Facebook and email, because I'm trying to keep my company lean, right? I don't want to like spend expenses on anything else. It's cool, right? So Facebook, the link will be down below, I believe, and my email as well, right? So that's those 2 ways basically, and I reply to everyone. Just drop me an email. I reply to everyone.
So we'll have Lian's contacts in the description of this video. We'll have the email and the Facebook, so you can contact him, know more about him, know more about his business. And man, thank you a lot for coming today. I really
thanks for having me. I really appreciate it as well.
I'm really happy to meet you eventually here in Singapore after a while. And man, thank you a lot for coming. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.